Welcome to the Passion of Entrepreneurship. Now, I've been saying I'm going live every weekday in June with an incredible entrepreneur. And there's so many that I've found we're actually bleeding over a bit. So I'm here with Donnie Boivin from Texas, who is, as you can see, a success champion. How are you doing, Donnie?
I'm awesome, Robbie. This is exciting to be here. I'm really, really looking forward to the conversation, my friend.
Okay, and I should mention for those who've been watching this series, we may be going a little NSFW here. You can't really talk with Donnie without doing that. So just disclaimers up front. And we'll rock and
You just
roll.
need to put that like the explicit lyrics, label. Just stream that across the bottom of the screen. So you're not going to get me without a little bit of cussing. Or a lot of bit of cussing, just depending on how riled up I get.
Depends on the time of day and how many beers, right?
Right, exactly right.
Exactly
right.
So, Donnie, this is all about the journey to entrepreneurship, but this is not where you started out.
No.
When you came out of the Marines, you went the JOB route, right?
I did, yeah. No, I jumped into, truth be told, I always tell everybody I jumped into a sales role, but the real truth is I jumped into an HVAC, heating and air conditioning tech job that I tried to quit, and they made me a salesperson. I spent 20 years working for other people as an employee, always in some sort of sales role. And I guess I would tell my story would have been I did all the right things. I was always top 1 or 2 sales guy, won all the freaking awards, became one of the top sales trainers in the US. And
you were one of those, man.
I was one of those. Yeah, I was one of those people that you love to meet at a networking event. Hey, what do you do? I'm a sales trainer. Right? As people tried to walk away from me. I did that for 7.5 years, and that's what I was doing right before I jumped out and decided to give this idea of being a business owner an actual try and see what the hell happens.
So you spent 20 years in the corporate world. What the heck happened that made you actually consider this after all of that time?
Well, first, the thought of being a business owner never crossed my mind. Right? Yeah. I never really ever wanted to go that route. But it was interesting. I'd worked my way all the way up to a partner of a multi-million-dollar sales training company. And I really thought that was going to be my retirement plan. I thought I was going to be a trainer. That was the direction I was going to go. And me and my business partner happened to go out to dinner, and phenomenal guy. I love him to death. And we were just celebrating, the past year's success, that year's success. And we were talking about some amazing things. And he looked at me and he said, Donnie, thank God you're my retirement plan. Right. When he said it, I got to be honest. I guarantee that I looked right back at him and said, it's my honor. It's been a privilege working with you. I've loved everything we built, because he meant it as a genuine compliment. And for the few minutes that I had a chance to think about it, I took it as a compliment because I was really building a badass business for him.
Yeah.
But when I got to my truck, I walked away from dinner, got to my truck, I sat down and I went, oh shit, you're literally somebody else's retirement plan. You're not even your own retirement plan. You're building somebody else's.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And I really started looking at my life over the past, at that point I was 40 years old, looking over the past 40 years, and this weird scenario kept playing out. It was, I never actually lived my own dream. I was living somebody else's dream. Every choice, everything I did was because it was the next thing in front of me. It wasn't because I was choosing this particular path. And it was like the world's worst gut punch. I mean, I really felt like somebody just beat the pure living shit out of me. And so here I'm sitting going, well, what are you going to do? And literally 15 days later from that conversation, I walked away from it all. I was in the middle of a 7-figure buyout. I was career everywhere you wanted it to be, living a life, whatever you want to call that. And I walked away from it all to do this thing they call being a business owner or entrepreneur, however you define that.
So here's a couple of questions come to me. If you were doing the buyout, you would have become the business owner
Correct.
anyway, but that wasn't your business. You wanted to
Correct. Yeah.
create your own.
Yeah. I didn't feel like I built it, right?
Yeah.
And what kept coming to mind, and it's kind of this tape that kept playing over and over again, is I started looking at how much money I made over the years, and I made some good money. But then I started looking at how much money the companies were making off of my back, and there was this drastic difference in what they were making, what I was making, and the between that and the words "Thank you for being my retirement plan," just kept playing over and over again. And I realized, dude, I'm 40 years old. If I don't jump in this game now and try it, see what I'm actually made of, either get in the game or shut the hell up. That was really what I kept telling myself. And somehow found the courage to make the leap. The tragic thing about that particular way I did it was that 15 days later was also the same day I told my wife what I was doing. She had no idea that I'd walked away from the career, everything, and was going to become a business owner. Yeah, I was that jackass.
By the way, honey. So with that, how much of that, you said it was a gut punch, okay? So how much of it was the response to the gut punch, and how much time did you actually spend thinking about the decision, or did you make it on the emotion?
No, it was. I pretty much made it on the spot. Okay. I knew I was going to do it. It scared the living shit out of me, though. If I'm completely honest, because here I was, living this kind of sales dream, doing really, really well. Great trajectory. I was speaking on stages. I was doing all the things, and it. I don't know, man. It was like I stepped into a cold shower or something, because instantly once I thought about I wasn't chasing my own dreams, I'm like, okay, something's got to change. Something's got to move. And it was at that moment. And it was weird, because that next 15 days between me and my business partner was a series of very weird conversations. Yeah. And I still love the guy to death. We're still great friends. We still get drinks every once in a while. And like I said, I go back. He was genuinely being sincere when he said it. And I don't think he regrets the words by any means. I think he's more proud of what I've done with the business since, and the things we've accomplished and everything else, but, I think as we move through life, man, there's just different moments in time where we finally look from a different perspective, and we either choose to step into those, new paths, new avenues, or we stay the course and become okay with just being okay.
Yeah. And okay is very underwhelming.
Yeah. It can't, here's the trick though. Some people, they're good being okay. Right. And I'm okay with that. I mean, if your lot in life is to be where you are, fucking groovy. Right. Just turn off the dreaming. That's what drives me nuts, is you got people that are dreaming about going big and doing amazing and awesome,
but never can take the step.
Right. Yeah, they never take the leap. They never jump in. They sit in this world of disappointment because they haven't found that second gear, that courage or whatever to make the leap. So if you're okay being okay, just be there and be good with that, and you'll live a happy and amazing and wonderful life. But if you're constantly always dreaming the grass is greener, life is better, something, you're going to make yourself fucking miserable. Turn that crap off.
So what let you take that leap? What was it that enabled that for you?
I think I was disappointed in myself. Okay. I think that as I looked at my life, the things I was doing, I grew up on self-help books. Back in the day, you had, Napoleon Hill, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, the older guys. And I love that stuff. And I thought I was doing the things that I was reading and listening to. I thought I was living kind of this courageous life. I thought that I was doing the right thing. If anybody would have asked me during my sales years, who I was, what I was doing, I would tell you I was one of the best sales guys in the world. I would tell you I'm on,
So you were doing this stuff.
I was doing the stuff, but I wasn't doing the stuff for me.
Right.
Right. And I think that's where the disappointment came in, is I started looking at everything going, dude, when are you going to start living?
You know, it's interesting when you say that because a lot of salespeople and all are into that, right? Into the
Hmm.
Napoleon Hill, into the,
Hmm.
and they'll use it to get the results you did. But then for you, what you needed, the missing piece was you got to do it for you,
Yeah.
not
Yeah. I
just
had
to
to
be
start
successful.
betting on me because although I had a lot of great life lessons, and I can still go back over the last, those 20-year sales career, 22-year sales career, and I can point exactly to some amazing learning experiences I had, you know, but during that 40-year run, I honestly had no idea who the hell I was,
Okay, which is pretty common.
right? And it took me launching a business and running that thing straight into the ground and damn near losing everything to finally figure out who the fuck I was.
So you did start it. Was the business that you started?
So it was Success Champions. So it's been
Okay.
Success Champions all the way through. But I was just going to be a motivational speaker, right? My ass was heading straight towards I'm going to be the next Tony Robbins.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
You were Tony Robbins with an edge.
yeah, with a bit of an edge. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did watch Tony Robbins do an interview with Gary Vee, and he actually dropped an F bomb. I was like, oh my god, Tony Robbins cussed. Um, but yeah, definitely, in my hometown of Fort Worth, Texas, I had a pretty cool brand. A lot of people knew who I was. I
Okay.
was on stages here. I was heavily involved in the community and doing a lot of interactions. The problem was it was only Fort Worth, Texas that knew me. And now
Okay.
I wanted to be this motivational speaker, blah blah blah. Nobody knew who the fuck Donnie Boivin was. So I was not prepared to completely start over. In my mind, being a business owner was just
Yeah.
going to be kind of the sidestep maneuver, right? It was just going to be, well, here's my website, here I am, and the world should say, "What?" Donnie walked through the freaking door, and the world kind of laughed, because nobody knew who I was, and so I was literally starting from zero,
Mhm.
and man, that was a tough fight.
So that really is a journey with your ego.
Oh God, yes. God, yes.
So tell me about that. How did you get through that without just being totally crushed and
Um,
beaten up?
two things. Probably the greatest discovery I found is if you want to meet yourself, um, have nothing left to fall back on.
Okay.
Right? When you finally burned all your bridges, like, I mean, as a sales guy, you can literally find excuses. Even if you're at the top of the game, you can find excuses when you hit a slump or something.
Yeah.
Like, the economy's down, or there's new competition moved in the town. And there's always this kind of safety net that your company will take care of you.
Yeah.
Right. And you think about things like, maybe there's benefits or whatever else. There's this vibe of safety. When you're a
Yeah.
business owner and your only income is what you do,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's a total game changer. You don't have time to sit in self-pity. Now, I'm not going to say there wasn't time I didn't have my head in my hands going, oh my God, why don't you just go get a job, right?
Yeah.
And there wasn't complete freak out sessions where I'm damn near in tears talking to my wife going, I have no clue what the hell I was doing. Absolutely a ton of those moments.
Yeah.
I just didn't have time for those moments to stay stacked up together.
So how did you come through that?
So it was January of 2018 when I walked up to my wife and said, babe, we're about to lose everything.
Okay.
So we were about 6 months into the business. I think that timeline works out. And I had spent all my capital trying to get this thing to work. And just nothing was working.
Yeah.
And my wife had no idea how bad it was. It was really scary. I mean, we were 3 months behind on the mortgage. Cars were getting talked about getting repoed. The electric bills were. I mean, it was really bad.
Everything.
And at that point, we had bought our dream farm. So I was already living on my dream farm, my Victorian house. I built a second house on the property for my mother-in-law. He had the animals. We had everything that we had been building towards. And now here I was looking at my wife saying, babe, we're going to lose everything. And she said a magical phrase to me that worked. And what she said was, get off your ass and go sell something. And so I literally started getting back into the game and go, okay, I got to fucking sell something. So it's funny if you go watch my business. I mean, I was trying to sell websites and video work and content creation, speaking engagements, podcasting. I was trying to freaking do anything.
Name it, I'll sell it.
Yeah, and that scrapping and clawing and figuring shit out started working. And what ultimately kept me, the fight's a lot of it what kept me going, because I was starting to really meet me. I was starting to figure out what I was really damn good at and what I shouldn't be doing. Okay. So that became part of the mental shift to move forward, because I was completely stacked up against it. Right. So there was no one, I couldn't say, the economy sucked. I couldn't say that, there's competition in the marketplace. I couldn't use excuses, because there was the only person I could blame was me. Yeah. Either I sold or we lost everything. And that's where the fight came from. The interesting thing happened was April of 2018. I was in this mental state that I felt like we were on the verge, but I hadn't broke loose yet. And I told my wife, I said, look, I've given this one hell of a try. I've got this big speaking engagement coming up. Here's where I'm going to finally be the guy that I always looked up to, that I always wanted to be when I was on stages and everything else. And I'm going to freaking unleash at this speaking engagement. If it works and I start growing a business, I keep running the business. If it fails, I go get a job. Yeah. So I went to that speaking engagement and fucking left it all on the stage. I gave it everything I had. And literally when I was done, I was flat out exhausted.
Yeah.
But like when you speak on stage, everybody wants to come up and talk to you and interact with you. So I was putting on the happy face, trying not to show I'm fatigued. And this guy walks up to me and he says, man, I love your story. I love what you've been through, what you've done. Would you come tell your story on my podcast? And I said, oh, that's interesting. What's a podcast?
And this was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I went and was a guest on this podcast. It aired a couple days later, and somebody listened to his show and became a client. And I went, wait, I can go on podcasts and get business? Hold my beer and watch this shit. I literally started getting on every show, podcast, and everything I did. And that's what finally turned the ship. Okay. Because it was in May of 2018 when I launched my podcast. And it took off, hit the top of the charts, blah, blah, blah. And I started building a business. And I tell everybody, truthfully, podcasting saved my business.
So let's back up here. April 2018, you didn't know what a podcast was. Mm-mm. May 2018, you launch a podcast and it hits the top.
Yep.
What the?
Well, I mean,
hell
I hit the top a few months later. So it was. I think still. It was 3 months in. I hit top 200 on iTunes, and then 5 months, or top 200 in the business category, top 200 overall, about 5 months in.
So what did you do? What did you learn that let you do that from someone who didn't have a clue what a podcast was?
So, one, I wanted, I grew up on PBS specials. Right. So I always loved the cool after school stories, and I love the motivational journey and hearing about what people overcame to find success. Right. Everybody loves hearing those stories. So when I launched the show, that was the idea. Is I just wanted to hear amazing stories from people, really, because I wanted to learn how they got through, because I felt like I was going through it. And so I knew that I wanted to tell stories of people who were unknown, but I also wanted to get the household names.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I was going to get to a level where I could get the household names, that I couldn't run a shit show. I had to have a legitimate process, systems, and everything else, but I had no idea how to create those. Yeah. So as I launched the podcast, I learned quickly, okay, I need an editor. So I had to go find an editor. I learned quickly, I'm like, okay, I need somebody to help me figure out how to market this. So I get a marketing team. I need writers. And so it's taught me first and foremost One, about having a clear vision of where you want to go. Second, it taught me about the process and how to hire and work with teams and bring people on and systems so they're repeatable. Because I made a lot of bad hires early on. And they were all 100% my fault because I couldn't tell people what I wanted them to accomplish.
Okay.
Right? So it taught me then how to lead a team, how to inspire and motivate a team to get them where they wanted to go. And then it flipped the switch when I had a unique conversation with a mentor of mine. And what happened was I was talking to him, I was a little bit frustrated. Once again, I could feel the business was getting ready to pop, but I couldn't get it to fully go. And so I was talking to one of my mentors, and I was kind of laying out everything that I was doing in the business. And he goes, Donnie, your problem's simple. I said, what's that? He goes, you have created a badass job for yourself, not a business. And I started really looking at everything, and every portion of my company, I had to be involved for it to succeed.
Which is
it's a death nail. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good job. Because when you're an employee and stuck in employee mindset, right, you have to get a job done no matter what the cost, or you're fired.
Yeah.
So it gets that same mentality. So I'm like, well, man, if my person I hired can't get it done quick enough, I got the skill. I'm just going to jump in and make sure it gets done, which doesn't solve any problems for anybody, but gets the job done. And that's what employees do. So I started looking at my business, and one of the funniest activities I did in my business to get everything to flip the script is I put down every task in the business, and I wrote it on a sheet of paper, right? 9.5 by 11, every freaking task. I drew a line next to that, and above that space to the right, I wrote, would Steve Jobs do this task? And then I went by every freaking task on that list, and it was amazing. I was doing so much shit in the business that I shouldn't be doing. And I was also in a spot I couldn't afford to get people to do some of the tasks that I needed to get done. Right? So now I had to go, okay, how do I find people that geek out on this particular task and get them to come help me? Well, insert the barter and trade system. And I started wheeling and dealing. I found people that, did maybe graphic design, or they did video editing, or they did content writing. I'm like, cool, why don't we do some sales coaching? And I'll trade out sales coaching for, you to do this portion of it. And that's literally how I started building my first team.
Okay.
And scrawling and clapping, figuring it out, trying to bring these people together. And it started to work, and we got the podcast to this very cool kind of well-oiled machine. And I also set a massive trap for myself on the podcast. I said I was going to do a daily podcast.
Yeah, ha ha ha. Tell me, from these daily Facebook lives, I know what you.
Yeah, so the only difference between what I did and what you're doing is I would record all day Friday. Yeah. I started off recording 9 episodes, hour long each, every Friday.
Oh, so when you said podcast, you're talking hour-long podcast, not like a 20-minute podcast.
No. Hour-long podcast. And
you are nuts.
Oh, dumb. Dumb's a better word. And so I would sit right here in this office that I'm in right now and record 9 interviews. And then we would launch them every day afterwards. And I did 9 because I was going 7 days a week. So, I had to get ahead of it in case I wanted to go on vacation. At least that was my thoughts.
Yeah.
I did that for 100 straight episodes.
Holy crow, man.
Yeah. I eventually bumped it down to 6 interviews on Friday because, I didn't even plan my lunch in there, right? So I'm just straight working and interviewing. I would run to the bathroom in like a 30-second pause in between the interviews. It was crazy. I do not recommend that to anybody.
So I'd go on the other side of it. Is there a danger there of putting out so much that it would overwhelm people who are following?
I think we found early on that people consume podcasts like Netflix.
Okay, they binge,
right?
Okay.
So I have so many podcasts that I listen to right now that I'm pissed there's not a new episode out. And I will not listen to it for a couple of months. So because I know once
so
I'm
you
back
can hear a bunch of them.
I can hear a bunch of episodes. and we found that a lot of people kind of do the same thing.
Okay.
There are people that, they have several podcasts, and like when Joe Rogan releases a new one, or somebody like John Lee Dumas or somebody releases a new one, they're instantly on. They're going to watch it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that are like me, they're like, nah, I'm going to let them stack up and then
Okay.
watch it. So between the processes, between the amount of content, between me becoming a sales guy for the podcast.
Yeah.
And this is what people, I think, really screw up about growing their shows or platforms, is I became a walking billboard before my show. So I was doing some traveling and speaking, and I was, going on other podcasts and everything. Man, if I met you for the first time within the first 30 seconds, I was most likely going to have your phone in my hand, and I was putting my podcast on your phone.
All right.
So if I had a speaking engagement, I would go look at the hotels, and I would make a guesstimate of which one was going to have the trade show going on and have the most salespeople in there. I would make sure to go sit at a bar and sit next to a couple of guys, probably work for the same company, and we'd have a conversation. I would always lead to, hey, what podcast do you listen to? The answer was almost always Joe Rogan. Yeah. And I'm like, well, cool. What app do you listen to it on? And they would say, iTunes or back in the day or whatever thing. A lot of times it was whatever podcast players on my phone. And I'm like, cool, can I see your phone really quick? And I get that weird look, and I literally, take their phone. I would put Success Champion on their phone, whatever podcast player in. I'm like, look, that's my show. And they're like, that's you? Yeah. It's totally my show. And that's how a lot of we
that
grew
is
a love
crazy,
show.
Man.
But it all came down to when you have a vision of where you want to go. Now you start working towards that vision. You can start putting pieces together.
Yeah.
And I think what the biggest thing that worked for me was, I don't like Simon Sinek's start with why, because I think why is too selfish, right? Because that only affects me. I like a vision that others want to help you create. So as we were building out the show, I was learning this concept of, how can I get others to become champions for me? Yeah. How can I get others to become champions of my brand and help me grow it? And man, we started creating champions, and these people were out telling people about the podcast. These people were telling about my brand, and we really started creating almost.
So these are the people that you were your subcontractors and such.
No, actually, these were fans.
Oh, just fans.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, these were people that were just into the message, into this kind of, as they call it, the fuck you vibe. And they were just into what I was doing, and they just became rock stars. I mean, I got people that have been along this ride with me since, the first episode we ever put out, and are still our biggest cheerleaders, for all this.
So here I got, with the way that, when it came down to it, you just focused and you barreled through, right?
Yeah, bowl in the china shop. Yeah.
Right. But so I'm betting that in a lot of interviews, people have asked you, what is it you drew on, say, from your Marine training that helped you move forward, right? Yeah. I want to go a different direction.
Good.
I want to ask, what did you have to unlearn from that time? Or
brilliant question, and I got to be honest, I've never been asked that. That's a brilliant question. So one, the biggest thing I had to unlearn was the whole get shit done attitude. I am just an action guy. I hate the phrase massive action, because massive action leads to burnout. Yeah, but I love constant, consistent daily action. Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, I had to, Brian Tracy or Zig said it in one of their tapes one time, and I played it in my head all the time. And what they said is, if it's up to me, if it has to be, it's up to me. Right. And so I was always in my head that if it's got to get done, I got to be the guy to do it. As a business owner, man, that's a surefire way to run your business in the ground. Right.
Or to run you in the ground.
Yeah, true. Well said. And so for me, it was learning to let go.
And that's huge for entrepreneurs, business owners.
Well, take, for instance, like creative's the hardest thing for any entrepreneur to let go of, right? because for somebody to wrap their head around your brand is very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
My logo was literally created by my t-shirt company.
So let's not go to the, $50 million contracts. No.
I literally went to get some t-shirts made because I'm like, I should wear my brand around because that helps me become the walking billboard. And so I went up to a friend of mine, Jackie Pierce, who owns Big Frog Custom T-shirts. And I said, Jackie, I need t-shirts. She goes, cool. You got a logo? I'm like, no.
Just want to say Donnie.
and she goes, okay, Matt, who's her graphic designer and her, kind of right-hand man, sat down and he's the one who created the logo. And he's like, when I create this logo, give me some kind of, what are you going for? And I said, well, the name of the company is Success Champions. When I think of a champion, I think of Brad Pitt in the movie Troy.
Yeah.
Right. Beginning scene, you got the two armies standing there. You got the one big monstrous dude. Yeah. And, Brad Pitt and this guy are going to fight it out. And I just love the idea that Brad Pitt's drunk in a brothel, when he's supposed to come do the fight and duke it all out. And the king sends his men in and he comes out. And, it ultimately Brad kills the guy and he becomes the champion, yada, yada, yada. And what I always thought about was, how do I get people to champion their own success?
Yeah.
How do I get them to pick themselves and really get after it and go for it? Thank you for putting the group up. Yeah. And that's where this entire idea of Success Champion came from. So if you look at my logo, there's actually a hidden symbol inside the logo, the S in the helm.
Yeah, I see that.
So Matt put that together, and then that's been the logo for the company. And it was funny because I tried to draw logos. I tried to do all kinds of things to put and I just could never find it. Matt did that in like a half hour, Yeah. And it's just always stuck. And it was one of those things that taught me really quick, man. There's people that geek out on the shit that you suck at. Let them geek out.
Let them do it.
Yeah.
So can I ask like general areas, what is it that you've learned you need to focus on that Donnie's got to run?
Being the face of the company, being out front, hands down. And I started asking myself questions like, what's made Gary Vee so successful? What's made Tony Robbins so successful? What's made Grant Cardone? Love him or hate him. What's made all of these guys that have become household names, Jen Sincero, all these people that these people know, what is their job? And their job is answered in one simple maneuver. They're the face, right? Yeah. You can go so far as Warren Buffett. He may be a brilliant investor, but he's the face of his company. And what I realized is if I'm inside tinkering in the business, nobody's new is hearing about the brand. Nobody new is learning about what I do. And I get pushback on this all the time. They're like, but I'm not big enough to have a team of people doing all the stuff. I'm like, bullshit. You're big enough right now. Go barter, trade, go scrap, find people that just geek out on what you do and figure out how to get them a part of your team. And whether you bring them brand awareness or whatever else, get your ass out front and be the face of the company. Yeah. And so that's my biggest focus is trying to turn off the entrepreneur monkey brain.
Yeah.
Because, once you get in this game, you're going to constantly start creating things. And so it's having a right-hand guy like Kevin Snow that keeps me in check. He's like, all right, can we build this first before we go to this one, and slowing it down a little bit, which is always good. But in the same token, it's looking for that constant opportunity to be out front. And that's my number one job. I'm the best sales guy in the company, as I believe every CEO should be. Yeah. They should not be the top salesperson once your business gets to a certain scale, but you better be the best damn salesperson, in the company. You shouldn't be producing the most amount of revenue for your company, but you should be absolutely the best salesperson.
Yeah. So now you're coaching a lot of business owners. Is this the main challenge you find that they have, that they are too into the weeds and not getting out to be their own success champion?
I think that's part of it. I think they haven't fucked up enough. I think they haven't took enough risks. I think they haven't broken enough shit. because it really, I didn't understand that I was running a job and not a company.
Okay.
And it took me getting to a breaking point of going, okay, something has to change, because everybody's scrappy enough to get by,
Yeah.
right? Everybody's scrappy enough to survive. Very few people ever get into a situation they can't get out of, right? And they're running that phrase, we'll always figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so my job is to lead from the front. And what I mean by that is I live my life and the world gets to see everything that happens in business.
Yeah.
They don't get to see a lot of the personal life. That's my choice, right? Like you'll never hear my wife's name set out there on social media or anything else. But you're going to hear all the wins, all the losses, all the fuck ups, all the screw ups, because I want people to see that if I can go through the stuff, they can too. Right?
So do they have to get to the break-in point, or
No.
can they? Yeah.
As it's the number one question I ask people on my show that I know that have been to the breaking point and back, and we have a cool debate about it. The answer is no.
Okay.
But the ugly truth of it is most have to.
Okay.
Because you'll never fight hard enough until you stop blaming the world.
Okay.
Right?
I know that you own it.
Yep. And success is your fault. Failure is your fault. And until you own both those truths, you cannot grow.
You see, that's interesting. For me, I kind of like the word responsibility rather than fault, because fault has a lot of guilt and blame and all that crap.
Yep.
To me is pointless.
No, I think it's absolute must.
Okay.
Because fault is a highly emotion.
Yeah, it is.
You never get anywhere without dealing with the emotions first. I want you pissed off. I want you fucking mad, right? I want people looking at the world and go, you need me. You need my fucking message. I'm here to change the world and fight for it, right? That's that pissed off attitude. Success, 100% my fault. I did all the shit that I did. It's on me.
Okay.
My failure, 100% my fault. I put it on me. It's all on me. And I love it because I get a lot of my, and I'm not busting chops, but a lot of my woo-woo healer people that come after me like, dude, you can't say fault. Oh, yeah, I can say fault all day long.
Don't tell Donnie what he can't say.
Right. That's a surefire way to get me riled up.
And to say it.
Yeah.
So right now, a lot of businesses have been like thrown on their heels with what's happening out there. Yep. There's a lot of people saying, like, I just can't do my business anymore. It doesn't work. It doesn't with this. So what is it you're telling your people when they come at you like that, saying, I just don't know how to?
For me, it's get scrappy. Because, and I love little Scrappy Doo off of Scooby Doo. That's what I always think of, right?
Put him up.
Yeah, exactly, that guy. And it really comes down to you got to find your next gear. And even in my company, we made a massive pivot during this time.
Oh, geez, you use that word. Jeez,
I know people hate it. I know people hate it, but it's our truth, so I've got to use it.
Okay.
And what happened is we were doing the Badass Business Summit. It was slated for April 3rd, 4th, and 5th, right?
Yeah.
I'd rented out a massive convention center, had people flying in from all over the world, and of course COVID hit, right? So we could not do it. So it's postponed till September. I have been running a business online for almost 3 years now. And I started looking at it, I'm like, oh shit. A lot of people right now have no clue how to run a business online. They've never done it. We've got to get out front and start teaching. So I told the team that we pause everything we're doing, all efforts going to help these small business owners figure out how to get online. And it was during that moment of, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to pull it off? That I had a 3 o'clock in the morning wake up like you do when you're running a business because your mind never shuts the hell off. And I sent a message to Kevin, my number 2 guy, and it was like 3:30 in the morning or something. At 6:30, he hadn't responded. I'm sending him another message. I'm like, dude, does this idea
Are you awake yet?
And he replies, he's like, dude, I haven't even gotten coffee yet. You know, and he comes back and he goes, no, I think it's a brilliant idea and I think it's going to work. Well, as a sales trainer, as a sales guy, I went through all the networking stuff. So I did the BNIs, I did the chambers, you know, I did all that crap, right? And I got to a point to where those people in those groups, although amazing people, didn't know how to sell.
Nope.
So that group became their only source of revenue for their business.
Yeah.
But there was usually me and one other person in that group that was like a total rock star that understood that group was only a portion of your business development plan.
Yeah.
So I started going to all these places and snatching out the best of the best and creating my own networking groups. And so we would bring all these badasses together and we ended up doing millions of dollars in referrals because when people understood that if I was out actively growing my business and if I could get you to the exact person you needed to get to, then great things happened. So what the message I sent Kevin was, dude, we're going to do everything we did from networking, but we're going to do it 100% virtual. We're not going to allow rookies into it. We only want what we call it second tier networkers, the people that have grown beyond BNI. And I love BNI. There's nothing wrong with it, right? I need BNI to train the rookies as they're coming up.
Yeah.
But when you've grown beyond BNI, you're ready to really scale and grow. Now you're ready for our groups. And what was fascinating is we launched these in May.
Yeah.
And since then, we're now 20 chapters across the U.S. Dana Ferret, our mutual friend, is opening up in Ontario next week. Then we are getting ready to create our first all Hispanic chapter. So we're converting translating all of it to Spanish. We're getting ready to open up London and some other areas in the UK.
Yeah.
And it just continues to grow because a lot of people have gone through the rookie networking.
Yeah.
And are now looking for that next level.
For where that next level is. Okay.
Yep.
And also to be able to work in this environment, because this ain't going away for
No.
Yeah.
No. So and so when I say pivot, it's about getting creative. What have you done that you have found success in the past that you're not leveraging to do business in the now?
Yeah.
And that was our answer, right? So even though it was a major pivot in the direction of the business, it's still relying on things we'd already done in the past and doing them in a different way and bringing them to market.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that it continues to grow, and we're continually impressed by what it's doing, and it's grew a hell of a lot bigger and faster than we were expecting. So there's been some great learning experiences in that as well.
Well, and that's what everyone's saying is that there's, it sucks the way it's been, but there's like crazy opportunity if you can find those leverage points, and that's what you've done.
100%. I think if the people right now that create something new that hasn't necessarily been in the marketplace are going to be the ones coming out winning through this thing.
Yeah.
I hate the phrase "the new norm." That whole phrase is wearing me out. But there is some truth behind it. Is what are you creating in this moment?
Yeah.
That'll last beyond this moment. It's like when we opened up, helping Dana open up the Barrie, Ontario chapter. Dana came to me and she's like, "Look, Canadians don't want to pay in U.S. dollars." I'm like, "Why not?" and she had to explain to me. She's like, it makes everybody feel like the stepchild, makes them feel like, they're not. And I'm like, all right, let's figure it out. So we had to go figure out on the back end, how do we do the currency, set up a price that's in Canadian dollars and, handle all the transactions, everything else. That was a first for us. There was a lot of learning. There was a lot of programming. There's a lot of things going, but it's now set up so Canadians can literally pay in the Canadian dollar.
Awesome. Yeah.
And the same thing, it's like setting up this Hispanic, chapter. I don't speak Spanish. I don't know anything. So I've got to trust that the translation's good. I've got to trust that, everything's going. And, I've never had to speak with an interpreter. So when we start running that chapter, it's going to be, I speak, then it goes in Spanish. And, so there's a lot of new learnings happening with that. And it's those moments that are the magic in growing a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hear the energy in you and with that. That's cool. Yeah.
Thanks, dude. Thanks.
So, Donnie, if people are looking to get a hold of you, what's the best place to track you down?
Yeah. So I got a gift for your audience, if that's okay.
That would be amazing.
So one of my biggest struggles as I was growing my business was coming up with social content.
Yeah.
Right. Because everybody's like, create content, create content. Gary Vee's like, you should be putting out 100 pieces of content a day, whatever crap.
Right.
So over this run of figuring out, we have found a very cool process to create a massive amount of content in a very, very short amount of time. Excuse me. So in one of my private Facebook groups, I teach a lot of small business owners how to scale and grow their business. I want people to get to their first 100,000 and then let's really scale.
Yeah.
So I taught them in a 45-minute class how to create an endless amount of social content in about 20 minutes of time.
Okay.
So if your listeners will text the words, I am a success champion, to 817-318-6030, I'll send them that training for free. It's a video Zoom training I did that'll walk them through how to create all the content.
Give me the number again.
817-318-6030. And they text the words, I am a success champion. And if you text to that, then we'll send that video. Of course, it's going to ask for your email address, so we know where to send it. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Except it's the word I am a success champion.
That is an I.
No, that's an exclamation point.
Oh, sorry.
You just hit the shift key. I do it all the time.
I. There we go.
Yep.
See.
And
picky.
But we'll send that over to you. I know we're live on Facebook at least, so
And YouTube, yeah.
Oh, and YouTube. So either one of those, you type in the word Success Champions, you'll come to our
You'll
brand.
find you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Donnie, thank you so much for coming on board here. Truly, really, really appreciate it.
You know what? I got to thank you, Robbie. This has been cool. I'm fascinated by how well you are at answering questions or asking questions. Great job. Can I do one more cool thing for you?
You can.
So, guys, if you're listening to this and you got any nugget of value out of this, like you got one tip or something you can apply in your business, will you do me a favor? Will you tell other people how to find Robbie? It's a lot of work to put on a show like this and a lot of energy and a lot of time. The greatest thing you can do is share this with somebody else who needs to hear these words. So help Robbie out and share this out to somebody for me.
Thank you, Donnie. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And we have one more, folks, show coming at you, not tomorrow, but on Friday to wrap up this daily series. I'm not going 100 days like you are. But I'm really enjoying them, finding out all about you guys. But thank you all for joining me. We will see you on Friday.